Hello, everyone. Candace-Marie Mitcham here with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Silverhawk Realty, East Idaho. Thank you for joining me for this week's Lending Lounge. And today, as usual on Mondays, I have Mike Morrison from Movement Mortgage, and we are going to go over different types of homes and the related lending products. So stay tuned. Hey, Mike, thanks always for gifting us some of your time, and Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, Happy New Year. MLK Day today. And I think we've got some good stuff to talk about.
We're starting off the year with good energy.
Very
Well,
good.
I thought we would come to the table at the beginning of the year with a little education for our viewers. So a lot of times we really talk about the rates and what's going on right now because it's just been so interesting lately. But why don't we go back and go to the fundamentals, right? So we have lots of different construction, but the most common that we tend to see are going to be single family homes. And that would give you a full accoutrement of lending products. We also have condos and townhomes.
Mhm.
And then we have manufactured homes in a lot of areas in the country. So I wanted to kind of go into the specifics and how lending plays into that this week. So
Yeah.
let's start with the basic, right?
Mhm.
Single family homes. Let's give a quick summary on what we do.
Yeah. So single family home, sometimes you'll hear it called a stick-built single family home. That is pretty much the standard housing unit that, when you think about buying a house, that's pretty much what people are thinking about most of the time. And in Idaho, where you and I are, that is the overwhelming majority of properties is a stick-built single family home. By far the easiest from a lending standpoint, has the least guidelines, has the least overlays and things of that nature. So certainly an easy loan to get for that type of property. And that applies to all loan types, all the major loan types: conventional, FHA, VA, and USDA.
So you have a buffet of options when it comes to a
Yes.
single family home, right?
Yes.
Okay, now when we get into condos and townhomes,
Mhm.
there's an important difference between the two. And I know you and I just recently worked together with a client.
Yeah.
And so we actually got into a lot of the details with this. So
Mhm.
let's go ahead and share that information.
Yeah, absolutely. So condo and townhome. So in our world, a townhome is basically treated the same as a stick-built single-family home.
Mhm.
There's always an HOA in place. That's maybe the one key difference, but for the most part, we treat it as a single-family home, and it's really easy to do. A townhome, the best way I can describe that for the average consumer out there is think of it as an attached unit where you do have some land typically, right? You own some ground underneath your house, and you have a property line. Whereas a condo, most of the time, not 100% of the time, but most of the time, it's going to be a unit in a building, and you don't own any property other than the four walls and everything inside.
Right.
And
No
that's
ground beneath you, no
no
air above
ground,
you.
no yard work, no yard work to do. But yeah, you own the unit inside, and we typically find those in bigger cities and more densely populated areas.
Right. And I'll pop a couple of pictures in here too, because when we, kind of imagine what does a townhome look like traditionally, if you will, it's kind of the row house, if you will, and they're
Yeah,
attached, right? So it's just you from top to bottom.
yeah,
And then a condo looks like an apartment building in a lot of cases in
yeah,
major metropolitan areas, right?
yeah.
But as you mentioned here in Idaho, they can look the same. And
There are
so,
occasions, yeah, where
yeah,
one could look like a townhome but be technically a condo. It's pretty
yeah.
rare, but it could happen.
Yeah, so we really pay attention here to what is the property called,
Mhm.
right? And we really have to go over the paperwork because it's not as easy to identify.
Yeah, yeah.
So now when it is a condo,
Mhm.
right? Something such as an FHA loan is a little bit different. Let's talk about that because you and I just went through this.
Yeah, yeah. If you're a consumer out there, you're probably wondering, man, why are Candace and Mike talking about the difference between condos and townhomes? And
Yeah.
and it is because there are important lending differences in how you buy those. So a townhome, as I mentioned, is basically treated the same as a stick-built single-family home. There's really not anything different about it. It's going to be pretty easy and straightforward. A condo, though, there is a lot more things that we have to check out as the lender.
Yeah.
We're going to dig into the HOA, the management company, the history of the association, the financials. Are there any lawsuits? How many owners are in the complex? How many are investment properties? There's a bunch of different questions that we have to ask of the association. And long story short, not every loan type will typically work inside of a condominium association. So having nothing to do with the buyer themselves, we may not be able to do an FHA loan. We may not be able to do a VA loan. Most of them will do a conventional loan, most of them. But VA and FHA is definitely something, if you're a consumer and you're shopping with one of those loan types, you want to check out the association first and see if it's approved. Or more correctly, you have a great agent like Candace, go check it out, make sure that it's got the right approvals for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the instance that we found ourselves, we were doing FHA.
Mhm.
And the listing had
Mhm.
noted that it was FHA approved as one of the
Mhm.
lending options. So
Yeah.
as we proceeded down the deal, what we found out is that it was a condo association where the entire property had not already been
Yeah.
pre-approved for FHA. So in swoops to the rescue like Superman is Mike Morrison and team and said, "Hey, okay, here's what we can do. We can get a single unit approval." And
Yes.
that was a beast all unto itself, and you guys were able to work through that, and we got just that one unit approved,
Mhm.
at least for this particular home
Yeah.
buyer. So that's definitely something that can be utilized if that hasn't already been worked out on the back end.
Yeah, that was a great success story. We did get that single unit approval, which is something we can very often do. But I want to say, man, if you said that I swooped to the rescue, I think you were incredible in that, because the thing about HOAs is they are not always the most communicative people.
Yeah.
And you were absolutely amazing. You were boots on the ground. You were there probably a couple times every week during the
Yep.
transaction. And I will say you made that happen. Without your help, helping your client and helping
Yeah.
us. Who knows if it would have gotten done, or at the very least, it would have taken a lot longer. So if somebody's looking for
Right.
somebody to go the extra mile, you want a realtor that goes the extra mile, that is Miss Candace-Marie Mitcham.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. We make a good team.
Yeah.
So now let's roll over to manufactured homes.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of requests about that, right?
Mhm.
We have
Yeah.
a lot of rural area here. We
Yep.
have kind of rural suburban interface here. And so just to kind of set the scene for everybody, you can have a mobile home manufactured home,
Mhm.
right? Where it's in a park, if you will. Okay. And with that, you're going to be renting space. So again, we're back to the situation where you don't own the land underneath you. You're going to pay X number of dollars a month, just like paying rent, for an apartment, and you have your designated slot for your manufactured or your mobile home.
Yeah.
You own the mobile home or the manufactured home,
Mhm.
and typically it is not structurally attached to the foundation.
Yeah.
So, in theory, at some point, if you wanted to sell that manufactured or mobile home, somebody could pick it up, have it
Mhm.
moved, and put it wherever they need to put it. New person comes in and starts rent with a new unit on top of that. That
Yep.
is one scenario. And then you have folks that are like, I'm getting that, pie in the sky dream of mine. I want 10 acres. I don't want to see anybody next to me. I'm going to have a foundation poured. I'm getting a manufactured home, and then I'm going to have it structurally attached to the foundation, get an
Mhm.
engineering certificate, and then it becomes what we call real property.
Yes.
And then it's like a traditional stick built home in a way.
Yeah.
But in the other method, it is more of property when it's not attached. So it is
Yeah.
more personal property, just like a car, boat, anything like that. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, with that said, Mike, how does that differ when we are looking at getting funding for any of those options?
Great question. Very important topic. Manufactured homes have been very popular here the last
Mhm.
few years because, quite simply, they're affordable,
Yeah.
right? They can be excellent homes. They can be great homes for people, but they usually come with a cheaper price tag.
Hmm.
So the mobile homes, manufactured homes that you mentioned in a park, those are basically going to not be financeable in any traditional sense. You can find loans out there, but they're typically going to be more expensive for the borrower, and not anything that I offer, and not anything that most banks and lenders offer.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, those homes that aren't attached permanently are actually considered vehicles.
Yeah.
They have a VIN number. Yeah,
Yep.
and they are a vehicle just like any other. So those are not traditionally financeable. The other type, though, on a permanent foundation, on its own piece of land, absolutely financeable. We do a lot of those every year. Can be great homes, and get acreage and things like that. We can do, my company, we can do all of the traditional loan types on those. So conventional, VA, FHA, USDA. Basically, the home just has to meet a few requirements. It does need to be on a permanent foundation,
Hmm.
converted into real property, as you
Right.
mentioned. It needs to be on its own piece of land, so it can't be leasing the land in any way. It needs to be built after June of 1976. That is when some laws went into effect, and basically building materials got better for those homes. They can't, generally speaking, they can't have been moved other than from the dealer to its new permanent location. One exception to that is we can do VA loans that have been moved, where the home has been moved more than once. So that's a
Mhm.
great avenue for that.
Is there a
Uh,
cap on how many times it can be relocated?
Not for VA. No,
Okay.
no, they will allow it to be moved. Yep, yep. So that's a good little loophole that we use a lot. And then the last thing is, for the most part, they generally cannot have had major structural renovations, right? So if people have put a door in the side of it or added onto it or other things like that, most of the time that will be a no-go. We have to send out engineers to check out the home and make sure it is still, structurally sound.
Yeah.
And so that can be a challenge sometimes, but they can be great homes, great prices.
Yeah.
And once we get through those checks on the home, the foundation, the location, those types of things, then it becomes no different than another property.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And for the ones that are in a park, I know I have a couple of lenders that we can use, but to your point, they are very specific. It
Yeah.
is at a higher interest rate. I believe the
Yeah.
last client I had that looked into that, it was 2 points, 2 full points higher than
Wow.
what was going on. And then also for anybody who is going to get a manufactured home, plan properly in advance for
Yeah.
sale.
Yeah.
So tip that is, if you're going to have, real property, you're going to have that attached to a foundation. Make sure that if at some point you want to update your cabinet color or something like that, don't paint over the certification.
Great
Because a
tip.
lot of times what they do
Yeah.
is they'll paste that inside of a cabinet door, usually like in the laundry room
Yeah.
type area where the utility closet is, something like that. And then
Yeah.
when you call one of us, you want to sell it, we have to try to find that. And if we can't find
Absolutely.
it, you've swapped out cabinets or something or painted over it. Like I said, it is a
Yeah.
whole ordeal to go and get a replica of that. And it takes an inordinate amount of time and effort. So please preserve that.
Yes, yes, great tip. That's called your HUD tag label.
Yep.
There's actually two of them on every
Yep.
individual piece of the home. So most manufactured homes are what's called a double wide or a triple wide. That means
Yep.
there's two slices or three slices. Each slice of the home has its own HUD tags. The one you mentioned is kind of a sticker, a label. It'll
Yep.
typically be under the sink in a utility room, but it's somehow pasted on the wall. You
Yep.
want that. The other place it will be is a small metal tag that's actually posted on the outside of the home.
Yeah.
What we find is some homeowners will paint over it,
Mhm.
put siding over the top of it. And you really don't want to do that, or you want to remember where it is so that we can gain access to it, because that is an important factor in qualifying manufactured homes. Great tip.
Yeah, yeah, I've done the hunt for those. Well, awesome. As always, great information to share.
Mhm.
So glad to see you in this new year. And I look forward to getting back to our regular schedules for Money Mondays with Mike
Yes.
Morrison at Movement Mortgage. So let's tell our viewers really quick, for anybody who's brand new, Mike, where can you provide your lending services and where can Movement Mortgage?
Yeah, I am personally in Idaho, Oregon, Washington, and California, and my company is licensed in all 50 states, so we can help you out wherever you may land.
All right, perfect. Thanks so much. We'll see you in a few days.